Natural.
Okay, so the point is, so what we're saying is, according to the Sefer Chinuch, there's 6 constant mitzvot. So one thing you've got to remember is that there's always that God is one, He's the only author of events in the world. This first we've got is God is eternal, He's always there and everything else. The second one, the one we're discussing now, is that God is the only author of events in the world. He has all power. There's no supernatural being with any power but Him. And if to say that He is just the guide and He's just the ruler, and there are other supernatural beings with power, is a form of idolatry. Whether you want to say the angels, whether you want to say the aspects of God, that is all idolatry. No. That's got nothing to do with this. Yeah, go for it.
It's not leaving the God in the study. Even if one acknowledges that the Holy One, blessed be He, knows everything, but imagines that He hands over the conduct of the world to an angel or heavenly body. This is acknowledgement of a foreign deity, and he transgresses the commandment. You should not have any other gods before me. Instead, one should believe that the Holy One, blessed be He, in person, supervises all the world, and no creature has the power to do anything contrary to His will. That is why the Holy One, blessed be He, is termed as the God of God.
And so, what you're talking about is your conduct. We're given commandments, but we do not see ourselves as creating the world. So what we should be doing, we should be following the commandments, we should be doing what God says. And through that we come and we make ourselves holy. But this is why you find it's actually anything in Rashi is Chochmah. In Shah Har-Yira, when he talks about all God, he says that theft is a form of idolatry. Theft. Because why? Because God has authored events and said this person should have X, that person should have Y, and you deciding you know better than God. No, he's not actually saying it's worshipping idols, he's saying it's conceptually. You're demoting God because you're putting Him below you. As a concept, not in reality, but it's just trying to illustrate the seriousness. But over here, we're not talking about us not obeying commandments. Over here, we're talking about the concept that we are saying God allows some other supernatural being to have power. It's a supernatural being that has power to do as it wills. At the moment you say that is idolatry because no supernatural being has power other than what God allows it to. No supernatural being can do anything but what God says it can do. If you're going to go and say a supernatural being has power on its own and can do something which God did not say, an angel. Supernatural, we do not have to worship, does not have to be worshipping another God. Saying an angel, people who pray to angels to intervene, that is a form of idolatry. I don't think they do, but there you get these various sects that are very much into the angels, and you pray to the angels to help you. Yeah.
And you say to the angel, when you're walking, you have to say to them. So you're not actually saying it to the angel, you're saying it to God.
Saying it to yes, it says an angel walking, but it's a concept. It's a concept that God has put an angel there to protect you. You've gone to shul, God's going to protect you. But that angel does not. It's called a malach. What's a malach? Is a messenger. Yaakov sent malachim, and there's an argument. We read it last week's parsha. He sent malachim to Esav. And there's an argument in my portion. Did he send actual messengers, or were those messengers actually angels? Because the word means both. Because a malach is just a messenger that carries out God's will. Yeah. And you didn't bring me coffee, so it makes it even worse. You want? At a time, yeah. We see they do have a bit of discretion in how they carry out that mission. So you find with Lot, when the angel's busy rescuing, he says, can't we stop running now, just stay somewhere overnight, and then continue. The angel says, okay. Because that's within the boundaries of the mission. So it can carry out the mission. Incidental to the job. There's a question of when the three angels come to Abraham, of each one of them has a job, one can then still go on to Lot. They say the fact that the healing of Abraham was incidental to the saving of Lot, because healing is the same as saving. So that's why one angel could do both. But the point that he's making here in the Biur Halakha is that if you are going to believe in any supernatural being have power, that is a form of idol worship.
These are rules for Jews.
There's
the other sects, whatever,
it becomes a very grey area of what is within the seven Noachide laws of acknowledging God, what isn't. You find there's a discussion over whether a shituf, a partnership deity, is acceptable. Because the concept, a partnership deity, a shituf, a partnership is acceptable. Yeah, a partnership, God, because the concept of deity, because the concept of the Trinity falls within it. Where you want to say that it's one God, it's multiple parts, it's a kind of partnership that rules together. So you'll find somebody like Rambam actually rules that it is not allowed. It is outside of the seven Noachide laws. The Meiri says no, it is allowed, and we generally follow the Meiri on this one.
Yeah.
But therefore, everybody agrees. For Jew, it is outright forbidden and idolatry to believe that God has got multiple parts which work in partnership with each other. So the concept, no, there's God. It's not a Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost or anything like that. There's one God. The moment you break God into parts, it is forbidden. So at what point does it become that you break God into parts? So everybody agrees Islam is 100% monotheistic. There's no argument. Christianity with the Trinity, there's an argument we accept nowadays. We agree, we follow the ruling that it is not monotheistic, but it is acceptable under the seven Noachide laws, because we agree to that. Strange enough, modern Hinduism falls into the same ruling. Hinduism, because whilst they've got all the various gods and idols, they're all aspects, just like that. Because whilst they've got the various aspects of things, you'll find a lot of modern Hinduism, there are some sects which don't, there are some which will say that these are just aspects of the one deity, and you're just praying to that aspect, just a representation of that aspect of the God. So it's just might not be a trinity as multiple. Buddhism is once again iffy because there's different types of Buddhism. So you get some Buddhism which is purely philosophical and has not got a deity at all. And it's just a philosophy. And you get some where you've got multiple deities. So it's not, you can't say it's this or that. No, because no. The Buddha is a representation of the person who brought it down. He's not the deity. So you're praying through him. It's some Christianity praying through Jesus, etc. So it's no. So once again, the thing is that you get some types of Buddhism which don't see him as a deity as all. It's a purely philosophical thing. Same as Confucianism. It's a purely philosophical thing. On the other hand, you get some forms of Buddhism which do move into deities and do have different kinds of holiness to it, and those forms are completely forbidden to Jews. But there's a very good book on Buddhism and Judaism called Letters to a Buddhist Jew by Rabbi Akiva Tatz. If you're interested to know the difference between Judaism and Buddhism and how it is not allowed, excellent book to read. Because there, Rabbi Akiva Tatz is debating with a Jew that became a Buddhist priest, etc. He's busy trying to explain to the person how Buddhism transgresses Judaism. But he goes into the book, Rabbi Kiva textbooks. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. No, yeah. Okay. So guys, the Be'eri, I have to look him. No, the Be'eri was. I have to look him up exactly. I can't remember what it stands for. I'll give it to you. Yeah. No, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I can remember his abbreviation, and I've got his commentary on the Talmud at the time. And I can't remember what his name is. Yeah. And because of this, we have to that God is the God of gods. He's the only God. The third of these constant mitzvot, the Yachdo, that he is alone, that he is unique. Shene'emar, as it says, Israel, God is one. God is your God. God is one. And we can explain this. Shema Yisrael. That this is the God that goes and orders everything according to his will, and he is the God that orders and controls the whole world. Hu Hashem Echad. He is one God. Bilui Shum Shituf, without any partners. That's it. So you actually find an interesting midrash that there's a debate as to when the angels were created. They say God did not create the angels on the first day. Why not? They said that people would not say that Mark was to his left and Raphael was to his right and assisted him in creating the world. Yeah, so they said for this reason angels were not created on the first day. That people must understand. No, so say that people would not say that. Could not say that there can be no doubt that God is the only one, the only creator, and the only orderer of the world. Everything else is subservient to him. Yes, yes, he's got the way I've seen it translated. He's got a beautiful way of translating it. A beautiful way of putting it is that is of the unique one. Of the absolute one, that you cannot split. The moment that if there's any place God isn't, then he's not one. So you can't say there cannot be a second deity, because that would mean there's a place God isn't. If there's a place God isn't, then it's not God. By definition, God is everywhere. Yeah. The moment there's another deity, there's somewhere he isn't, therefore it's not God. Yeah. No. Okay, now there isn't that. So you can't say he is the table. So this is actually one of the things that Viana Gaon objected to in Tanya. Because the way we see the Viana Gaon and most of the Kublim follow that kind of tradition explaining God's presence is that God is like a light coming down into the world that touches on everything. So it goes and it light goes and it gives meaning to everything. Without that light, everything ceases to exist. Whereas you then got the concept of God being within everything. And the Viana Gaon objector says God is not in the table. God's light goes and sustains the table and keeps the table there, but he's not the table. So this is the difference between... Yeah. Okay, anyway, so the fourth, so we now got the first of them was that God... what we're saying is that God, no, is the difference between not everything is alive. Everything might have atoms that move around. It's not in there alive. Atom is not alive. No, the atoms are alive. If you actually find Ram, what's interesting is atoms are not a new concept to Judaism. Ramban, in his commentary to Bereshit, says there are only two things created from scratch. There are only two unique creations. There's one which is spiritual, one which is physical, and he says these unique creations were tiny little particles of which everything else is built. He didn't use the word atom. He didn't know the word atom. Ramban was not Greek. So, like he just said, these one spiritual, one physical, and everything else was built from the spiritual and physical building blocks. But so does that mean that everything else is living?
Yes.
No, it just means that everything is created. This glass is not living. The fact that it's got atoms does not make it a living creature. But we say that this is sustained by the light of God. By God's presence coming into the world, without God's presence in the world, this glass cannot exist. It does not mean that God is in the glass. It just means that God's presence, God's absolute being everywhere, sustains it. So one of the ways to say, imagine that you've got a sphere. And so God's light surrounds a sphere. And in that sphere, you've got a hole, and God's light comes in and permeates throughout that sphere. So that means that God's presence coming into the world and sustaining everything in the world. It doesn't mean that God is everything in the world. To say that God is a rock, and you can now bow down and pray to the rock because God is the rock, is idol worship.
I understand that. But it's that God's, I don't see a difference between God's light and God.
No, so what we're saying, no, God's light is God, but God's light is sustaining it. It is so. It's not that it's not.
I understand that the plate is not a God.
No, it's not the plate. What we're saying is we can't say the plate, because God's presence is in the plate. The plate has now got some holiness to it. So if I might be holding this plate, it's got a nice piece of cake on it, and I say, well, the cake was made from wheat, which was grown by God, and the plate is made from sand, which was melted and turned into something. It was all created by God. Therefore, because I can sense God's presence in the plate and in the cake, it's got holiness, I can venerate it. It's not. It's sustained by God. It is not God. It is just sustained by the presence. Yeah. I can't even turn around and say that the plate is holy. So we're just saying, so God's presence comes into the world and sustains everything. Yeah, that's the same thing. So God, B'Tzalel, when he built everything for the temple, they've been slaves. You really think one person could have all of those skills? He could weave, he could smelt, he could be a jeweler, he could do everything, because God allowed him to do it. But it's the same thing. God allows things to exist. It does not mean that God is that thing. Correct. Well, God allows the tree to exist. God's presence. No, God's presence is there, and without God's presence, so there's a statement that if God stopped thinking about this world for even one moment, the world would cease to exist. Okay, so God's continuous presence, God's continuous light being in our world. Imagine that sphere, if the coal gets cut off, and God's presence stops coming into this world, everything ceases to exist. But does not mean that everything is God. Okay, so let's go. So the fourth of the constant mitzvot, le'ehov hamakom baruch hu, is to love God. So the fourth of the constant mitzvot is that we must love God, as it says, "V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha." It must love the Lord your God. V'kaitzad yagia hadam le'ehov, and how does a person come to this love, lahava, hu al yedei haTorah, yekidasa b'sifrei. This is through the Torah. Al yedei Torah, through observing the Torah, as it says in Sifra. Sifra is one of what they call the halachic midrashim. Because you get two types of midrash. You get a midrash agadata, which is the stories and delusions and all of the interesting little stories, and you get halachic midrashim, which are also midrashim, but they come to explain the laws. And Sifra is one of those. The fish in Emar, because it says v'ahavta, and you should love. How do I know? How do I love Hashem? How do I love Hamakom? Talmud lomar v'hayu hadarim ha'ele asher nachim tzveh hayom alavevecha. It comes and it teaches hayu hadarim. These words that I have given to you this day should be on your heart. Shemitoch kach atam akir et mi shamar v'haya haolam. Because through this you come and you recognize Yishama Vayahala. The one who says, Vayahala, the one who created the world, that said, this is the world. Klomar. Therefore, Sha'al Yadei Hitbonanut Batorah Yakir Et Gdilato Shalakadosh Baruch Hu She'ein Lo Erech Lo Kates. That through the Zevei Torah we come, that through this observing of the Torah and of the mitzvot, we recognize the greatness of Hashem, of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that there is not, that he has no beginning, he has no end. So you, as you can say, you are Yah, Hoveh, V'yihiyeh, past, present, future, no start, no end. That's God. V'hit yashev ha'ava v'libo b'hechrach v'inyan ha'mitzvah hira ha'adam l'hashim kol b'gamato v'chol machshavato echad avat Hashem yitbarach. And we should come and we should direct all of our love in our hearts and in our actions to the matter of the mitzvot. That through this, the person comes and goes and directs himself, he can come to love God. Yes, so it's covered. You got Allah Torah, Allah Vodav, Al Gimlot Hasidim. It's on the Torah, on Allah Torah, Allah Vodav, on the actions and on good deeds. Yeah, so what he's saying here, now he's talking about a different aspect. He's saying that one of the mitzvot is for us to love God. He says, and how do we show? So he says, but practically, how do I do it? Just practically, what does loving God mean? That's all I'm trying to say, love God. Right, I'm in love with God. How do you show it? How do you demonstrate it? What is the practicality of that? The practical. Correct. Correct. By following the Torah, that is showing that is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, all right, guys. Thank you. We'll continue Monday.